right?
Yes, we can hear you.
Start video.
Okay, now we can see you.
Okay, very good. Yeah. So we are in Reykjavik. I'm just sitting in my car now because I thought I would start by showing you the clip about the Northern Lights. Just to tell you a little bit first about myself. So I'm here in Reykjavik now. I am a tour guide, been for many years. Of course, until the pandemic a year ago, I was touring with people sort of live, but we started doing these virtual tours last May or June, and you know, it's a nice substitute for the real thing, but not the same, but still. When we can't travel, it's the second best. I have to admit, I've never actually done this on Zoom before, but I've done lots of Zoom meetings, so I'm sure it will work out. So a little bit about the Northern Lights. It just so happens that if things were normal, yesterday would have been sort of the last official day of the Northern Lights season. It usually starts sort of beginning of September, and then mid-April is when we stop. And it's not because the Northern Lights are not there anymore. They are up there all year round. It's simply because here in Iceland, we are so far north on the hemisphere that it is too light for a too long a time. So we don't get it properly dark now until close to midnight, which is too late to take anybody out. So that's why we stop usually mid-April. With this winter, we've had quite an interesting show of Northern Lights, but you know, it's just been sort of for the locals to enjoy. There have not really been any people to look at it. But so okay, I am going to start now by showing you this video. It's a video clip from a year before last. It's a compilation of a few nights of the Northern Lights. And you can see it's the middle of winter. We are now sort of hopefully entering springtime here in Iceland. But these clips are all from before, from earlier sort of in the year, earlier winter. I hope you enjoy it. It's about just under 4 minutes long. I might stop it before we get to 4 minutes. I mean, maybe between 2 and 3 minutes is fine. So we'll just see. There's some music as well. I'm not going to be talking as you're looking at it because it just sort of speaks for itself. And then I'll join you when I stop it. So I am going to share the screen with you. Let's see. Where are we? There we are.
It's not.
So are you seeing it?
No, we don't see the video at all. We just see your.
Okay. You're just seeing me.
Yeah. Well, no, we see your H.
Okay.
Maybe I can make you co-host.
Yeah, I think that will be better because it's a bit complicated when I'm just sort of a guest on the meeting to do anything like this.
Okay, I just made you co-host.
Okay, let me just go back to the. There we go. Screen. I'm sorry, I am not very familiar with Zoom, so okay. So we stop here, share content. That's what I'm gonna do.
It's all right, we got time.
And then I go to the screen here, and This is not okay. Okay, I am not really getting. Okay, I'm going to go back once more and go here, here, and there, and then I am. Is that actually coming up now?
No, unfortunately, no, it's just got your age. But what we can do is, however, you could just email me the video and I could pass it along to everybody. So it's not coming up.
Yeah, I don't. I'm sorry, I don't really know this Zoom features well enough, so that I thought I had it all worked out, but obviously I haven't.
Yeah, well, not
Let
a
me just try
problem.
one more time.
Okay.
Okay.
We have your picture.
Yeah, you have my picture, and that's not a problem. I can show you everything around here, but it's a bit annoying not being able to. This is something.
Yeah, no, it's not coming up.
Nope. Okay. Well.
Okay, so you can,
Okay, I'll send you the
you
link.
can send it to me and I'll pass it along to the group.
Yeah.
Thank you for
So I
trying.
want to make my. I am very sorry, but this is not going to go anywhere. I will send it to you, and you can just enjoy it at your leisure anywhere,
Okay,
anytime.
that'll work. Thank you.
Okay. So what I suggest is that if you yes, mute your mics, and then to make what I'm showing you full screen with you, you need to do something which I hope you know what is for someone who does. Do you have me like sort of full screen, not
Yes.
just a small stamp in the corner?
Yes.
Okay. Yes. You might want to disable your cameras, because then if you disable your cameras, then you'll be sort of seeing what I'm showing you mostly. Okay, so I'm turning the camera around now, so you're seeing what I'm seeing.
Yes.
My face.
Yeah, we see it.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you have it on your sort of large screen.
Yes.
So yeah, you're not. Yeah. Okay. Very good. So we're starting the tour here on a small square in front of a rather big church. In fact, it's the largest church in the country. It's not the cathedral though. It was built by the parish here in this part of Reykjavik, but it is by far the largest. And you would think it's the cathedral, but it's not. It was started in the 50s. I'm just going to show you here, right all the way up to the top there. And you see those like those wings on both sides of the front. And the architect who designed this, he said that he wanted the church to remind of the basalt columns that sort of the sea cliffs around Iceland are so famous for. And so that this is like almost like a sort of a rising out of the ground like that.
Private message.
Can you, if I would be really, it'd be really good if you could disable your cameras, because then my picture on my device would be sort of full screen. As it is, it's just there in the corner. Yeah, if you disable the cameras, so you're just seeing what I'm seeing, I'm showing you. And now I'm just seeing just a tiny square with what I'm showing you, and the most part of my screen is actually you, Joe. So if you disable your camera and
Why don't they disable?
Forget it. We can't help. We can't
Yeah.
these problems.
okay. Never mind. It's okay. If you're seeing this, just if you can just bear with me just for 1 second. I'm just going to put this here. I'm just zipping up my coat. It's quite cold here now today. So
Let me see his legs.
there we go. Okay. Okay. So just a little bit about sort of the religious state of the people of Iceland. It is the state church in Iceland is Lutheran Protestant. And like I said, it's the state church.
Havar,
Yes.
can you maybe talk a little more into the mic? It's a little faint, the sound.
Okay. Is it better now?
A little bit better, yeah.
Okay, let me see. Okay.
Disaster.
Yeah, okay.
We lost the picture.
Yeah, I know. Should be back now.
Yeah, the picture's back.
Yeah, okay. And can you hear me?
So yeah, we could hear you. It's a little soft, quiet, but
Yeah.
we could hear.
Well, it's I got the AirPods in my ears, but if I take them out and use the mic on the phone, then you'll be hearing so much wind noise that it will be even worse.
Oh, okay.
So I'll try to speak up, and then hopefully you can hear me.
Yeah, that's a little better.
Yeah. So strangely enough, as I said, the state church here is the Lutheran Protestant, and that actually is that everybody is really sort of a member of that church by default, and you have to sign off if you don't want to be a member of it. We do have a Catholic community, which is sort of rather small, and other sort of religious societies or communities are even smaller. And because you asked me about Jewish sort of, if there was anything that, were Jewish here in Iceland, then the short answer is no, there isn't. There hasn't really ever been any, shall we say, a Jewish community in Iceland. But I did think when you sent me that question, I started thinking about that actually there were people that came here to Iceland in the 1930s and early 40s for obvious reasons from Germany and Austria. And these people were incredibly influential in the music life, especially in Iceland. Actually raised it to a level that it hadn't been at before, and I never really looked back. Just on the top of my head, I can remember names of men that came here, musicians, professional musicians that came, and they were influential in starting the Symphony Orchestra of Iceland, music academy, and so on. And the names that come to mind are Edelstein. He started the first music academy in Reykjavik. There was an Urbansit, who was a conductor of the symphonic orchestra in the first years, was opened or started in 1950. And then there was one more that I can remember just like that on top of my head. It was always called Robert Abraham. I'm not sure if that was his real surname or whether there was someone, but Robert Abraham was always the name he went by. And he was incredibly influential in, shall we say, educating and teaching sort of people here in Iceland singing. He was a choir conductor. So, and choirs are a very popular thing in Iceland and have been for a long time, but he was instrumental in starting that tradition. So that's what I can tell you about the influence of Jewish people here in Iceland. Certainly really valuable and a lot. But here is a statue of a guy that obviously we don't know what looked like, but this is what the artist sort of imagined. This is Leif Erikson. He was born just before, or sort of 20 years before the year 1000, around about 980. He is the one who discovered, or well, he didn't discover it, it was always there. He is the first European to come to North America in round about the year 1000, nearly 500 years before Columbus. And it's been absolutely proven that Nordic people from Iceland via Greenland and over to North America were traveling round about that time, because there is evidence in Canada of that they actually were there. So Leif Erikson, he was the son of Eric the Red. Eric the Red is the one who first settled in Greenland of the Europeans or Nordic people. And this statue was actually given to the people of Iceland by the United States of America on the year, which is 1000th anniversary of the Parliament here in 1930, which means that the Parliament has been in session here in Iceland since 930. Certainly not sort of the same system since then, but we are very proud to be able to say that we have the oldest parliament in the world. The Viking parliament was, of course, very different from the democratic parliament that we have today here in Iceland. The Vikings, or the chiefs of Iceland at the time, they were self-appointed to the parliament. There was no election, there was no democracy involved or anything of the sort. So very different, but still. It was more like an assembly of chiefs rather than a parliament. That's what it was. We are now just entering a street that takes us down to the very center of Reykjavik. So I'm going to be walking down the street. You'll see that there's the architecture here in the sort of, this is really what we would call the old town. And of course, geographically, it's not anymore the center of Reykjavik, simply because Reykjavik has expanded so much that the old center is actually quite off center nowadays. But still, when we sort of talk about the center, we really usually mean this area. And the houses in Iceland are not very old, at least not compared to what we have in Europe and elsewhere. Simply because up until late 19th century, the building materials that were used here in Iceland were not very sort of lasting or long lasting, mostly turf and some rocks And those houses or buildings wouldn't last more than maybe 50, 60 years. So really what we are looking at here, like this house, very typical of sort of around about 1900. Last quarter of the 19th century up until sort of 1920 or the 1920s. This is a wooden house built on a stone sort of foundation, but the structure, the frame is wooden, and then it's on the outside is corrugated iron to shield the woodwork from the elements. And this has proven to be quite a sort of long-lasting and successful method. Of course, these houses have been renovated since they were originally built, but you'll see that there are some that are sort of in between stone houses. They're built after 1915. 1915 was quite an important date in sort of the history of architecture in Reykjavik, in that there was a big fire in the center of Reykjavik in 1914, where a lot of houses burned down and some lives were lost as well. And after that, it was actually forbidden to build wooden houses too close to each other, simply because then they would sort of set fire to each other if one caught fire. And that's when we say that the age of concrete started in Iceland, when the main building material after 1915 was concrete. And we have here a mix of these old wooden houses, like here. And then just next to them, here on this side where I'm standing, is like a house built of concrete. This is a house from the 1930s. And most of the stone houses here, or the concrete houses here, are from the late 1920s, 30s. This street used to be just a residential street, and it still is in sort of partly, but with the incredible increase in tourism over the last 10 years, up until last year, of course, we have seen a big change here in the center, so that most of these houses, especially the ground floors, have been converted into some sort of shops, coffee houses, workshops. This street has actually kind of found a nice niche for itself, in that it's a lot of arts and crafts stores here. Artists that have settled here and are selling items that they are making themselves. But of course, the last year has actually had quite an impact. So a few of these spots are now vacant because there are no tourists. If everything was, shall we say, normal, if it was like it was before last year, I would not be walking almost like here on my own. I would be sort of in a crowd of people. I wouldn't just be walking along the streets here. Now there is hardly anyone, even if it's a Friday afternoon. I mean, you would expect there to be more people here, but no, there's not. Just a little bit of sort of side interest here. Right here is what is called the Hand Knitting Association of Iceland. It says right there on this sign, Hand Knitting Association of Iceland, and this is the outlet. So here is where they are actually selling also. So this is very popular, Icelandic wool. And these items are made from the wool of the Iceland sheep, which has been what has kept the Icelandic people alive for the last 1,000 years or so. Sheep farming was the main occupation of everybody here in Iceland up until just about 100 years ago, when the fishing industry started for real. Before that, fishing was always like a byproduct or a by-industry of the agriculture. The farmers would go fishing when when there was no sort of in the autumn and in the winter. but nobody would go fishing in the summer. No point in doing that. And they would all be busy gathering the hay and everything for the winter for the sheep. But now the population of Iceland is actually around 360,000. That may not sound like a very large number of people, but I can tell you that if we go back just over 100 years, if we go back to the end of the 19th century, the total population of Iceland was about 80,000. So it has actually, increased 4 times in just over 100 years, and that's quite a lot. But 360,000 people living here on this island. Iceland is actually quite big. It's about 100,000 square kilometers, which is about 60,000 square miles, 65,000. Somebody said to me that that was about the size of Kentucky. So there you have it. Anyway, most of Iceland is uninhabitable. There's no way to live here in Iceland, except around the coast. We are so close to what you would call the uninhabitable world, that far north on the globe, that it's only really possible and has never been an option to live in the interior of Iceland. It's too cold, winter is too long, summer is too short, and there's very little to live on, especially when there were everybody was farming. Then farming in the highlands of Iceland was impossible. So really, those 360,000 people that live here are living just around the coast on about 20% of the land. The remaining 80% are just mountains, glaciers, lakes, lava fields, and so on. And as I said, it's that cold that as soon as you are above an elevation of about 250 meters, it's not really possible to actually sort of live there. Of course, the highlands of Iceland are very popular to visit and hike and to see them, especially in the summer. They're not very accessible in the winter. But in the summer, there's a lot of people that like to visit the highlands, and that's good. But as I say, nobody lives there. So Iceland is really one of the last frontiers in, shall we say, seeing unspoiled wilderness, and being sort of on your own. You can easily come to Iceland. Sorry about that. There was somebody calling me. I was just blocking him off. Okay. So anyway, so that's really what the Iceland is. And as I said, we live around the coast. There are villages and farms in valleys up from the coast, and that's about it. Just going to show you here in this window. This is a small gallery of a photographer. It's not Icelandic, but he has made Iceland his playground and taken pictures there. It's very good. Just going to check if I can go inside. Góðan daginn, má ég taka eitt smá hring?
Já, endilega.
Oh, okay. So he's kind enough to allow me to walk through here because the photos here are quite remarkable, and they can show you parts of Iceland that we can't see on this walk of ours. So this is on the south coast of Iceland. This is called the Black Beach. Those cliffs there. It's a beautiful photograph and a beautiful place. Here we have a photo of what is called the Glacial Lagoon in the southeast of Iceland. It's a lagoon in front of a big glacier, our largest glacier. The icebergs are carving off the front of the glacier and floating in the lagoon. And here is a photo of the Northern Lights, so at least I can show you this. And you will see the video later. This is a photo of a little country church on the west coast and the Northern Lights above. Here is a winter scene, a waterfall in the north of Iceland, all frozen up. And if you want to check on this wonderful photographer, then his name is Yuri Belegursi. He's a brilliant photographer. Here is an aerial photo from the highlands showing you what it's like. This is a river, the white streaks there, and just sort of snaking its way around this little pond. And that green, not grass, it's moss. Here we have a mountain, again on the peninsula on the west coast of Iceland. This is probably the most photographed mountain in Iceland. It featured in the series Game of Thrones. So people like to go there and to take a photo there. And then finally we have here a very nice rock that is just standing there just off the coast on the northwest of Iceland. Nice. Oh yes, I have to show you this one too. This is a picture of the highlands. And you see there, this is sort of early summer. The snow is still in patches on the mountain. Then you have the green moss. And the color of the rock is from black to almost yellow or gold. Then there's a glacial river there that sort of is working its way there between the mountains. So this is what the highlands look like, some of them. And it kind of explains what I said before about it's not really possible to live there. But they're very nice to visit. So that's it. Tack för det. Yeah, tack. So that was nice.
Mhm.
Yes, it was
Able
very
to show
nice.
you that.
It was very interesting.
Yeah, and just being able to show you a little bit sort of outside of Reykjavik, just by that walk through that gallery. You have here, I mean, I'm not going to go inside here, but this is another gallery of the sort I talked about, sort of pottery and nice stuff. And just to show you here, you can see, the colors of the rainbow here on the street. And this is, of course, to celebrate the that people are of all, shall we say, genders. And there's a big procession here in the summer. It has been for a number of years now. The gay pride parade. It has actually turned into almost like a family occasion here in Iceland. Everybody joins in. There are a lot of people. And now we are entering we're coming into the other main street. This street has an interesting name and an interesting history behind the name. It's called Reyjavegur. Reyja means basins, or actually refers to the fact that here in Iceland there's a lot of geothermal hot water. And in Reykjavik, not the least, the name of the city, Reyjavik, is actually translated means smoky bay, and smoke is actually rather the steam that was rising out of the ground when the first settlers came here. So they named this spot Reykjavik. It didn't become a town or a village for several hundred years. There was just a farm here like everywhere else. So the name of the farm was originally Reykjavik. Then the town took the name. But the maids of the better off people here in Reykjavik walk with the washing, with the laundry along this, which wasn't a street then, it was just a trail, about 3 miles from here to where the hot springs are. And that's where they would wash the laundry, outside all year round, sometimes freezing conditions, but the temperature of the water would always be close to 90 degrees centigrade. So almost like a boiling point. And they would have to be very careful, and they would have to be taking the water out of the hot springs and mixing it with cold water to avoid burning themselves. But they would walk with the laundry. First, the dirty laundry was then dry on their backs, 3 miles out there, wash it, and then they'd have to walk back with it wet on their backs. And that's where the name of the trail originates, Reyjavik. It's the trail to the hot springs. Now it's just the shopping street. And I'm not sure a lot of people know what I just told you about the, what lies behind the name. But nevertheless. But it does also tell us something about what it was like to live here in earlier times, because now we have the geothermal hot water just piped into our homes. And that's what the hot water we get. It just comes out of the ground, readily hot. And we also heat all our houses with that same hot water. So we're not using any, shall we say, fossil fuels or anything like that to heat. We're not using gas, coal, or anything, or not electricity to heat our houses. We're using geothermal hot water. And that's one of the natural sort of resources that we have here in Iceland. Electricity here in Iceland is also produced by a natural source, which is the waterfalls. So we're producing our electricity that way. And that's also very good. If we had to import all our energy sources, we wouldn't be able to live here. It would be too expensive. So those two things, the geothermal hot water and the hydropower, actually make it, can we say, possible for the general public to actually live it, because it's much cheaper. The electricity are cheaper. Not long ago, I saw that compared to like the rest of Scandinavia, Norway, Denmark, Sweden, it's about 40% less that we pay than they do pay. And that's simply because we have it sort of under our feet. So that's one of the sources. But of course, it's only in the last century that we've been able to tap into those sources. It's not really something that people were able to use before. So that's part of the sort of modernization of the country. Now I'm walking here in front of a building, which is the government house. We are now right in the sort of very center of Reykjavik. This is the government house. In there are the offices of the Prime Minister. It's a lady now. Jakobsdóttir is her name, Katrin Jakobsdóttir. And she represents, or is the leader of the what they call the Socialist Green Party. But the government is a coalition between the Conservatives, the Socialists, and the third party, which is really sort of in the middle. So it's really a coalition of all views. I'm not sure what to call it. Maybe conservative, socialist, something. That might be a description of it. But anyway, that's what we have. But here we have a picture. No, not a picture. We have a statue of a king. This was a king of Denmark. It was King Christian IX. And he was Iceland was actually under Danish rule for 700 years, from late 14th century up until 1944. Yeah, 1944. That's just 7 years ago. And this king of Denmark, Christian IX, came here in 1874. And what he's actually sort of symbolically holding in his hand is a constitution. It's a scroll, which was the first constitution that the Icelandic people actually got. So it was given to the Icelandic people by the king of Denmark. And of course, it wasn't really, it was shall we say, a step forward in the independence or in the struggle for independence. First step, important step. And again, he was the first king to visit, this part of his kingdom. Even if by that time Iceland had been part of the Danish kingdom for nearly, about 600 years. King Christian IX. And here, opposite, is the first Prime Minister of Iceland. I'm going to show you a statue of a woman the only statue of a woman in Reykjavik. So as far as I know, there are quite a few statues of men. I'm going to just show you these two. But then there is one of a woman, which is also important. And this guy is Hannes Hafstein, Prime Minister, who was appointed by the king because he actually was the first Prime Minister appointed by the King of Denmark in 1904. And he was the only minister, not just the Prime Minister, but the only minister. He was called Minister of Icelandic Affairs. That's what it was called. Okay. We'll wait for the green light here. But here we have, this is the center. These are, buildings that are actually quite recent. Some of them are built in the style of the ones that were before there, old, but most of them are just square boxes. And furthest away in that direction where we're looking now is the concert hall. And again, that's the home of the Icelandic Opera and the symphonic orchestra. And as I said before, we wouldn't have those institutions, the symphonic orchestra. Well, we might have them, but they would probably have been founded later. And but as I said, these people that came here from Germany and Austria in the 30s and the 40s were incredibly influential in establishing the musical life. Just a little point of interest here. This is the, we could call it the coat of arms of Reykjavik. And what you have there are two columns and sort of symbolic waves of the sea. And the legend has it that the first settler here in Reykjavik, his name is Ingolf, came here with his family. When he came on his ship from Norway up to the coast of Iceland, the south coast of Iceland, he took his two totem poles or columns that were next to his, on either side of his seat, and he threw them overboard because he wasn't Christian. He was actually a believer of the old Nordic gods. This was in the late 9th century. And what he did was he threw them overboard and said, where the gods will bring these ashore, that's where I will make my home. And the legend tells us that they were found here in the Bay of Reykjavik. So that's what it symbolizes. The columns of Ingolf and the sea. But then again, I can also destroy that legend by telling you that it's been actually tested since then to throw something overboard roundabout where he supposedly did it, and it goes the other way because of the currents in the sea. But it's a nice story. Now the people that came here initially, the traditional, I would say the official version is that these were people from Norway, and that is true, but only up to a point. These Vikings that came here initially in the 9th century and early 10th century, they had been raiding across the North Sea over to England, Scotland, Ireland, and what they were after were, of course, some valuables, but also women. So it's actually been established that about 70% of the men that came here initially came from Scandinavia, but 70% of the women came from the British Isles. So from the very start, the population here was quite a mix. And now the official version is that Iceland was settled by people from Northern Europe, not from Scandinavia exclusively. But of course, through the centuries, everybody in Iceland wanted to believe that they were descended from Norwegian chiefs and Vikings. not what they called Irish slaves, but I guess the mixture of people really. And it definitely did have an impact on how Christianity sort of was established here quickly. Just around the year 1000 is when Iceland officially became Christian. And certainly one of the reasons was that most of the people that came from Ireland especially were Christian, even if they were coming earlier than that. So Christianity had already sort of gained a foothold here quite a few decades before it was officially recognized. So that's a little bit of that. Now we are looking here. It's snowing now. We get a little bit of everything here in the weather department. Temperature today is just above 0. That's centigrades. It's sort of 4 degrees centigrade. That's what 35 to 40 Fahrenheit, I guess. And I'm sure you've heard of the eruption, the volcanic eruption that's going on here now. It started, well, was it sort of around about the 20th of March? And it seems to be going on now and probably will go on for weeks, even months from here. It's been immensely popular for people to go there and look at it and stand next to the 1,000-degree hot lava flowing. But it's not without sort of dangers, because there are some dangerous gases and fumes that come up from the ground in an eruption like that. So, here's a photo of Reykjavik from before. Looking at the car there, an old Volvo, would probably be sort of in the 70s. And they are rebuilding these houses over there and showing the photos there like what it used to be. And here is an idealistic photo of what it will look like. Not sure. The funny thing is that when you see photos like this here in Iceland, they're always showing people sort of dressed like it's you know, very warm and summery and everything, and that's not usually what we have. But here you have people just walking around in t-shirts and what have you. Here is a little house. This house is the oldest house in Reykjavik. It's from the 18th century. The very oldest house. And it's now a restaurant that was originally built by a man in the 18th century. His name was Skúli, Mr. Magnusson, Skúli Magnusson. And he was very ambitious on behalf of the Icelandic people. There wasn't really anything here. There was just a few farms scattered around the area here. But he really wanted to set up some industry. And actually what this little house was built for was to make ropes, because ropes and strings, you know, fishing lines was what the Icelanders needed the most. So he started in this house like a rope making, shall we say, factory. But it didn't last very long. And this is, of course, not a working fountain or a well, but it is actually put here in sort of to remind us that right here was the first well in Reykjavik before people had water piped into their homes. And that wasn't until just around 1920, that's when the waterworks was sort of built and the water was piped into the houses. But before that, everybody had to come here and get water and carry it home in buckets. And the better off, of course, have somebody do it for them. Oh yes, and I said I wasn't going to show you statues of more men, but since I'm walking up towards here, this is a statue of Skúli Magnússon, the rope making guy who started the first sort of industry in Reyjavik. There he is, and his dates are 1711 till 1794. There's a lot going on in the center, a lot of construction, a lot of changes, mostly to do or sort of to do with tourism, because there's hotels are being built, and of course that was halted a little bit because of the pandemic. But here, for instance, is a hotel in the making, and a lot of buildings and houses in the center have been converted into hotels or some sort of accommodation, of short-term accommodation. And I guess that's the way things develop in most capital cities. But the tourism here was sort of really growing exponentially from 2011 up until 2019. We were sort of seeing an increase in people coming here between sort of 15 and 20% every year, and we were really having a problem sort of kind of coping with this. Literally just having accommodation, having being able to feed. And 2019 saw over 2 million people visiting Iceland. And that's a lot when the population is only, 1/4 of that. But somehow you managed. But we've used this last year quite effectively to sort of improve the infrastructure. So we are more ready now when everything goes back to normal, hopefully. This building here is the House of Parliament, here in the center of it. That's the street. And so you can get a full view of the building.
We lost the pic. Oh, there we go.
There we go. Yes. Okay, so here we are, and you can see there's a little crowd there at the top, because this was built during Danish rule. Even if we had this sort of parliament there, and when we got our independence, well, we didn't take the crown down. Just thought it was a nice decoration. But of course, we don't have a king here. We have a president. Iceland became a democratic republic in 1944. So we have a president here. And right opposite the House of Parliament is a statue of another guy who is said to be the most sort of prominent figure in the struggle for independence. And there he is. The struggle for independence in Iceland was very peaceful. Nobody died. It was all done over a desk. It took a long time, but eventually, I think the Second War actually sort of speeded the process up quite a bit, because the Germans invaded Denmark in 1913. But Iceland was lost. The British came here shortly after, and yeah, in so many words, occupied Iceland. But after 4 years of contact with Denmark, the people of Iceland decided to declare independence. Here is a statue of the only woman that I know of. And she was the first woman to be a member of the parliament. And it says here, her name was Ingibjörg Bjarnason. and she was elected to the parliament in 1922. And this statue was erected in 2015. So there we have it.
We lost the picture. No. Havar. We did. Looks like we lost Havar. Havar, we lost you.
Who's talking to?
Is anybody there? Looks like we lost Havar. Maybe he fell into a volcano hole. The lava ate him up. Havar?
Can anyone sing a Iceland song
You
or?
can unmute yourself. Maybe he ran out of battery.
You mean his phone or him?
And this is to be continued, right?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. We lost him. The first time we lost a guide.
Disappeared.
I
He
think
didn't do bad either for the first time.
He's coming back.
Oh, he's coming back.
Coming back. Yeah.
Oh,
Oh, Havar.
there he is.
No,
no.
tell him he's muted.
You're muted, Havar.
Send
Okay.
somebody.
So you can hear me now?
Yeah, we lost the picture for a few minutes.
Yeah, I know. They my energy bank was a bit low, and it still is. So I just wanted to let me see.
You're sideways.
There we go.
Oh, there.
Now he's okay.
You can see it now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, we see it.
Okay. So before I run out of juice again, which is something I wasn't expecting, but still, we are really at our last stop here, which is the city hall, standing right here in front of the what is called the pond here in central Reykjavik.
Yeah, it's sideways. It's sideways.
Great.
Flip it. There we go. That's,
There we go.
there we go.
That's better.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So we're just crossing the street here and then seeing the pond. But basically, this is it. This is really where we end the tour.
Okay. Do you have time for a few questions if your battery holds?
Yes. That would be good. You can ask me anything you like. I'm just going to find somewhere where I can sort of be a little bit out of the wind here.
Okay, you should take, you should put it back to the gallery. You should take it off the share.
Oh yeah, here we are. Here we are. We'll just look at the ducks while we
Ah,
Oh, the ducks.
take the questions.
Oh, they're not frozen.
If my camera just sort of dies on us as you are asking, then I'm just going to say sort of now goodbye and thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed it. Sorry about the technical hiccups. Not used to it, but again, this is my first with a Zoom on these walks, so so that was a bit of an experiment.
Yeah.
But anyway,
No,
so here, fire away.
yeah, you covered a lot of ground. Thank you. It was an interesting tour. What's the temperature in the summer? How do the people eat outside dining?
No, not really. Well, the average temperature, like in July here on the south coast, which is warmer than the north side, is 12 centigrades. But then again, we have days that the temperature rises up to 20 or even more. But you can also get days where it's very cold, close to zero. That's why we get the average of 12.
Okay, can you also explain a little bit about the Northern Lights? How did it come about?
Yeah.
And how does it work? It almost looks like
yeah.
it looks like a fireworks show.
Yes, I know. I mean, the Northern Lights are really they originate from the sun. It's so-called solar flares, which are really just incredible nuclear explosions on the surface of the sun, and they throw an enormous amount of charged particles, so-called, which are really just electrified protons and neutrons, and these are actually hurtling through space. And it's called the energy that drives them through space is called solar wind. And when it actually is directed at us here, at Earth, and it enters the atmosphere, and the energy that these particles contain, when they collide with the atmosphere, that's what creates the Northern Lights. It's just the transfer of that electric energy that creates it. So that's really what it is. So, and the difference in activity and intensity of the Northern Lights all depends on how strong the solar wind is and how much of those particles it carries with it. So yeah, that's what it is.
So does Iceland have the best Northern Lights, or do other countries have?
Well, I mean, not Iceland in particular, but the Northern Hemisphere has most of it, because for some reason that's where these particles have easiest access into the atmosphere, is around the polar areas, both the north and the south. So we have Northern Lights and we have Southern Lights, which are around the South Pole. Same phenomenon, but just opposite.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for Havar?
What language do you speak
It's sides of the globe.
besides English?
Yes, hi there. Oh, we've got some geese here talking to us. Yeah. Not sure what they wanted to tell me, but something important. So, any more questions? So I just thought of, the fauna of Iceland, animals, is very poor. We don't really have any wild animals except for the fox. But what makes it up is the incredible amount of birds that we have here in Iceland, especially in the summer. Millions, literally millions of migrating birds from sort of southern parts of the world come over here in the spring to nest. So that's what the Icelandic summer is all about, the birds. That's what the sound of birds everywhere. And those geese were maybe reminding me of that. They've just arrived. So, any more questions?
Well, I guess if there's no more questions, we'll wish you a good day and thank you for the tour. And we appreciate it. And you'll send us the video and we can enjoy the Northern Lights.
Oh, I will do that just as soon as I get back to my house. I will send you the video. And I'm so sorry that I couldn't really
Okay.
deliver.
We saw a lot of Reyjavik. That's the largest city, right? Is that the only, there's other cities in Iceland, right?
Well, there are not cities. This is really the only city, but we have towns and villages around, sort of around the island. The second largest town is in the north of Iceland and has about 25,000 people living there. But then most of the villages have plus or minus just 1,000. They're very small. They're just fishing villages sort of on the coast around the island.
Okay. We saw a lot of people didn't have masks. The people aren't wearing masks for the COVID there.
Well, we don't sort of need them when we're outside.
Okay.
That's what we if you go into a shop or a store or something or anywhere inside, then you put the mask on, but outside, no.
Okay. Any other questions for Lavar? We'll let him.
Can you build basements? Can you build basements in this, in Iceland?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, I didn't know whether because of the thermal.
Oh yeah, I see what you mean. Well, yes, of course, not where it is, where the thermal energy is sort of almost like close to the surface, but anywhere else, yes.
What
And
do
what
people
about-
do for a living?
Say again?
What do people do for a living? Make money.
3/4 of the population are actually in what we could call sort of service industry, which is really, like everywhere else, in a modern society, the health system, education system, and all those, government jobs and so on. But the main sort of production industry is the fishing industry. And then tourism, actually, 3 years ago, actually became the largest industry here in Iceland, larger than the fishing industry in terms of the income that it generates. But that's, as I said, that's just 3 years ago when it actually became bigger. But it's always been quite important, but not, such a, enormously important. So it was a very big blow for us to, have the tourist industry just sort of kind of wiped out overnight. But like everywhere else.
The restaurant's still 5-star.
Question, have you gotten the vaccines there? Are you inoculating the population?
Yes. We are underway. We've, I think we have now been about 20% of the population, starting with the oldest, and sort of people who have like sort of underlying diseases and so on. So we've so far we've vaccinated about 20% of the population, and
what
we're
vaccine
expecting
did
to
you-
have. Say again.
What vaccine did you get?
Mostly Pfizer, also Moderna,
Okay.
but mostly from Pfizer. We haven't used the AstraZeneca or Janssen yet, but and we're sort of still debating whether to use it or not.
Where do you get your food from? Do you import it? Are you growing
The
it?
food, well, of course, a lot of it is imported, but agricultural stuff is sort of mostly grown here in Iceland. Meat and of course fish. We don't import fish. We catch a lot of it, and that's our biggest export as well. We have really sort of big limitations or tariffs on imported foodstuffs. But anything that is like fruit or corn-based is imported. But there is an industry here which is getting larger every year called the greenhouse industry, and that's using the geothermal temperature or the geothermal water to heat greenhouses. And we are actually growing about half the vegetables that the people consume here in greenhouses in Iceland. So we're not importing that except when we need it. So that's a big industry as well. Sort of part of the agriculture end, but it's relatively recent. So it has kind of taken off, during the last sort of 20, 30 years.
Do you have any universities?
We have 3 universities. We have the University of Iceland, which is state-run. And by the way, the educational system here in Iceland is free for all the way up through university. We do have a private university, which of course is not free. People, students have to pay tuition fees, but the University of Iceland is by far the largest. And then we have a university in the town on the north of Iceland as well, which is not really, it's an independent university, but still it is a state university as well.
You have many hospitals?
And again, the health care is also free, to a certain extent. Certainly, if anybody needs to go to a hospital for whatever reason and stay there for as long as needed, it doesn't pay anything. But of course, you could say we've already paid for it through our taxes.
Good for you.
Okay, anything else of our goal? Thank you again, Havar. We appreciate the tour, and you brought your country home to us.
Okay, so I'm just turning around so you see my face just for the last second.
Okay.
Okay, so